Hello and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 223 at scavengerlife.com.
Yeah, we want to welcome you to Trash Shelf Radio, as I always like to say.
Trash Shelf Radio!
Yeah, anyone that's just stumbling upon here would be like, what is this podcast about? Anyway, we hope that you're either photographing or listening or packing right now. And if you've chosen to sell on eBay as full-time, as your job, then you found your people. Because that's who we are.
I just want to say...
Supposedly full-time.
Supposedly. We pretend we're full-time.
We
don't do any.
Yeah, it's funny. We make a full-time a living, but lately we have not been doing much eBay.
Well, we're about to get back into it. I will say this. The fire has started.
Yep.
The wood stove fire.
That's right.
It's the first fire of the season.
Those of you who know us know that we heat our home purely with a wood stove because we have a small enough home. So it finally got cold enough here in it's Virginia where I started our first fire of the season.
The funny thing about fall in Virginia is because I'm from Massachusetts, so once it's cold, it's pretty much cold. But Virginia's weird. Like this weekend, it's supposed to get like hot. It's just kind of confusing.
Yeah, it's not going to really get cold till I think January is when it's like cold all day
every day
and all night long. It still gets pretty warm here. Okay, enough about the weather.
Yeah, the weather.
Forget about it. Anyway, it's fun being back. It's always nice to get back into the comments and to see people talk. And, it kind of just reminds me of why we do this podcast in the first place,
Absolutely. To talk to people. Because if there was no one talking on the blog, we'd just be talking to each other and we'd be bored.
And it's strange, like when we started this podcast, it's always just kind of a leap of faith. You know? We're just talking about our lives in our store, just putting it on the internet, and that's it.
And hoping something will happen.
People, I guess it's people doing searches and kind of stumbling upon us, and it's so interesting. And then you start having people from different parts of the country or the world start talking to each other, and it's good. And I'm glad people are smart. A lot of smart people out there. Even better, I really love the fact that people are sharing its numbers every week.
Yes.
People are now even starting to share the things they sell and where they found them.
Yeah, people are getting really detailed, which is great because that helps everybody, I think, And
I also love that there are a growing number of people that sell on eBay who post its numbers that do better than we do. And it's great.
Way better. Like some of those people's numbers, I'm like, what?
Yeah. And even some people with much smaller stores are making equivalent amount of money as we do. Because for a while there, it's like... We've always been posting our numbers. And it seems like we always had the highest numbers, and now it's like I think that's good because people can see there's a huge swath of different of different levels that you can sell at.
Right.
You can either sell a whole lot, make a lot of money, or even not sell quite so much, but you're selling really quality stuff,
like high-end stuff.
High-end. So it's really helpful to see that. And also, for me, I really love to see people make more than we do because it makes me competitive. I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
How do we start making that kind of money? What are they doing?
Yeah, well...
We can learn from them.
To me, that's not being competitive, actually. That's like, I want to, figure out that there is a different way and what are they doing, and let's be inspired by those people who are they are putting in 40 hours a week.
Right.
We're not... I mean, we've been traveling since the beginning of August, so it's it's October now, so it's let's get back into it, I
mean, and I was thinking about that. I mean, we've kind of been, in a sense, on autopilot for a while. Which, in one ways is our eBay business has just been kind of like a muscle, it's memory, where... We aren't really so much putting a lot of thought into it. We're just kind of doing some eBay as we have time, just because it's what we do.
Yeah.
But, we've spent the last 4 months either not a listing or we've been listing our death piles,
Which are very low dollar items.
I mean,
that's why they're the death piles.
Those of you that have listened to us, I don't know, it was maybe back in June. I was like, I want to get rid of all these bins of stuff.
You have been doing it.
But the thing that's happened though is that so everything we're listing is like, under $40.
Yeah.
And so it just
under
means
$20 sometimes.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about those items, just real quick, is there's still some cool stuff that I'm like, well, I don't want to get rid of this because we bought it and I know someone wants it and it will sell.
But I guess my point is it's a good perspective in like these decisions we make. It was like a simple thing. I was like, I want to get rid of all this stuff.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, it's going to take me 6 months to actually do it.
Yeah.
And that thing that I made, what means that it affects the money we make, it's business.
Right.
And so it turns out actually like the past 6 months is just basically house cleaning.
Yeah, it's been house cleaning.
Which is interesting because there was a while there where we were like, we're just going to focus on selling high dollar items.
And then all of a sudden for 6 months, it's like $14.99.
Yeah.
$12.99.
But it's good, it's like...
But you know what? That stuff's been selling. That's the crazy thing is like, we started listing those piles of death like right before we left for our trip and stuff was selling. Like those lowish dollar items that were like, people buy this stuff,
But I think that's very important to give its perspective. But at the same time, we still have been making a full-time income every month this year.
Yep.
And even these slow months for us, we've been averaging about $6,000 every month.
Yeah, I mean that's
even when we aren't doing anything.
Yeah.
And that's just because our strategy of the list it, forget it, large store, the pipeline. So we've said it's before. And it's happened to us every single time we do this. We can take off for basically 2 to 3 months.
And stuff still
and
sells.
Just kind of cruise.
Yeah.
And that's why we love eBay, I'm sure that's why people love Amazon FBA too, because you can just
really cruise because people are shipping for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
We have this, it's rental property, and it's just interesting. We had a family come and stay at our place. And it's interesting. We met our perfect customer. Yeah,
and this is hilarious, right? We walk into the little writer's cabin. That's the first thing we show people because we're already outside. And we have kind of like a vintage, it's kind of antique desk lamp that's like cast aluminum. Right. And she's like, oh, we have that exact lamp and we bought it on Etsy.
Right, so why don't we say who our perfect customer.
Yeah.
So she was like in her mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
And she was cool. She told us about how she rents on Airbnb.
Yes.
She buys on Etsy and she buys on eBay. Mm-hmm. And they actually were driving from our house back to
Michigan.
So they were going to do a 3-day trip because she was going to buy a piece of furniture on local pickup on eBay.
In Pennsylvania. So she's like, it's perfect.
But to me, it's like, I think that is becoming a growing audience. These people who are buying a lot of their stuff online and from people like us, and they and instead of renting hotels, they would rather rent cabins or houses or apartments. So I think to me that's a good visual example of what the online world is becoming. So this week we did something big. We paid off one of our loans.
Yes.
We talked about this earlier in the year where we said how, after we redid our that farmhouse at rental property, we finally got it up and it's running. It's now making us income, and we're taking that income and we're now putting it back into the money we owe.
Right.
And it also felt good for us because a lot of the money that we put towards this loan was what we made when we were traveling the past 2 months. So those 2 big jobs we did, we basically took those 2 paychecks.
Right.
They were nice.
Yeah.
Put them in our account and gave them right back to the bank.
Now, that was only part of those paychecks. So it was those paychecks plus stuff we made on eBay and stuff we made through rental.
But it made me feel good that it made it all worth it, all the traveling and kind of stress of those jobs. And it was nice. And we actually went to the bank itself and made sure they cleared it out in the computer and we could see where it said paid off. And
it showed us a 0 balance, which is So, in fact, I think it's so rare that people do that. The teller was like, I have to call the main branch and see how we do this. And we're like, that's weird. They don't know how to... Oh, who pays off their loans ahead of time? Like, it's crazy.
And we talked about it. Our goal is to try and get debt-free, including our home, if we can, our mortgage, in the next 5 years. And so... Like we've said before, it's all just numbers. There's lots of different people that do stuff like this. Who's that guy? Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey. Yeah. Those guys. I mean, about just, there's a loan payoff calculator, and you can, as long as you pay a little bit every month.
A little bit more extra every month. Hopefully you're going to pay it off faster. You are very good at making sure you do the numbers. That's for sure. Like when you did that loan payoff calculator, it was a few months ago. I think it was in January, actually.
Yeah, it was this year.
It was in January. It was the beginning of this year. And you were like, if we're aggressive about this, we can pay off all our loans in 5 years. And I was like, no way. And then you showed me the link to the payoff calculator, and I was like, oh my God, you're right.
It's true.
That's crazy.
So, and these kind of goals are important to us, so we don't feel like we're just grinding away, like when we're doing eBay or, when we're like cleaning the house, cleaning up behind people. It's just like, I just don't want to feel it's like a slave. So.
Yeah, and cleaning can definitely make you feel like that sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, so Ryan has been lately kind of grumbling at this part of our show, doing the numbers.
Yes.
Why? You don't want to do it? I mean,
no, it's not.
Do you want to skip it?
No, I don't, and I don't think people want us to skip it either. I don't know. I'm just.
So their show not like rock and roll enough for you? Like
yes, very much.
It's not like rock.
No, it's like
What's your show?
The numbers come out, and I'm kind of like.
So does it make you feel like we're just like too adult? It's like we're just being too like responsible, like.
No, I don't feel like that at all. I just,
we're too nerdy.
I think I look at the list and the two stores, and I'm like, okay, average price, same as last week.
Well, let's go through this real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean things really haven't changed for us. They've been really steady. But like we said, we're going to tell you the numbers of how much we sold and made this week. And just be clear, we make this even though we really haven't put a lot of effort into eBay, other than shipping.
Minimal effort.
But this is what happens if you have a large store. Mm-hmm. You can coast for a while.
Yeah.
We sold 26 items in our main store.
Yes.
And made about $1,200.
That's actually kind of amazing, the 26.
Average price was about $46.
Yeah.
So we made, a little less than $200 a day.
But there were some high-end items. Like our highest price sold was $250. That was a wool rug.
Right.
Best offer wool rug.
And then in our second store, it's been really slow lately. And we made we sold 6 items. We sold about $200, about $32 an item.
I do want to mention this about our second store. A lot of the piles of death, I'll call them this now, the folders of death, those are going into the second store. Right. So a lot of low dollar stuff is going in there. Right. So, and
it's interesting too, the experiment is showing me that, like, I've always said, if you have 500 things in a store, you'll start to make $2,000 a month. That obviously is not happening
not in
with
our
this store.
Not right now.
And I think that's also just because, I guess I should say, 500 items of a certain kind of thing.
Higher quality, higher priced.
Yeah. Like, you have to have stuff, I think, that some of it's cast to sell for $100.
Yeah. Regularly.
This store that has 575 items, most of it is under $30.
Yeah, it's really low dollar.
And also it's a lot of like little weird stuff.
But the good thing is now that have been getting through the piles and folders of death, I think I have 2 folders of death to list, and then it's on to like just regular higher priced items.
Yeah. And again, for anyone that's confused as to this terminology which we use when we call our death piles, we're talking about those piles in your house of stuff you don't want to list. It's the stuff where you come home from scavenging and you pull out all the cool fun stuff, the stuff that's going to sell for a lot of money, and then you might have like in our case, it's just normally plastic tubs. We'll put this stuff in plastic tubs and put them on the porch and say, I'll do it later. And so this summer, after 3 years of doing that, I noticed we had about 25 of these tubs. And I was like, I'm just got to do this.
Yeah,
or
get through it.
I was either a listed or donated was my other thing. So we decided to.
We listed a lot of it. Actually, there are a lot of things that we
I'm probably about halfway done.
Yeah, and I will say that there are some things that you think are cheap and end up being a high-priced item. Yeah. And you're like, oh, that's actually a nice surprise. You know?
Or just, the stuff sells. I don't know. Things we sold this week.
So we sold 2 different rugs this week. One was $50.
Yep.
And one was $250.
Yep. And one of the rugs, it's $50 one, I bought for $90.
Yeah.
I honestly thought
it was $80.
I really thought it was going to sell for more. I thought it was going to sell for $400, but we got $250, so it's all right.
It's so funny that we had such a high price on it because it was not a huge rug, but it was a high quality, brand new wool, like designer rug.
Yeah, it was pretty nice.
But we saw that $250 offer. And I was like, I want to get that out of storage. Storage meaning the daybed over, like, I'm looking at it, and it's filled with rugs and a chandelier. Yeah. Like, oh, God, no. Yeah, sell it.
But we just sold again, it's such random stuff. A bunch of shoes, hats we've been selling.
We've been selling hats. We've been selling jackets and sweaters, which makes me super happy because I want to move that inventory.
And then, like, a trivet and some stationery.
Freaking trivet. You know how many trivets I have? So many.
A knife. Yeah.
Yeah, that knife. You guys will see it all in the video. I've been videotaping
just
all
like
this stuff.
Steak knife.
But it's so funny. Check it out. It's a Rogers steak knife made in Japan. It's a solid wood handle. I picked that thing up and I was like, this is a really nice steak knife. Like, if you want a nice steak knife for your house, like, I want a steak knife, that's the one. And someone bought one knife for $15. What? That's crazy.
Yep.
It's so funny. But, like, he must have had the same instinct as us, like, Rogers made in Japan, stainless, serrated, solid wood. Like, that's worth $15.
We sold another paint by numbers for $50.
That's a nice one.
It's so interesting. I feel like, and it's not a bad thing, but, you do those what sells as videos, and then we see an immediate effect where people are emailing me, asking me, like, what is a paint by numbers? Like, how do I find these?
Yeah.
Or people talking in the comments. And I just imagine there are people across the country who are now trying to find these things and sell them. And I'm like, are we crazy for, like, telling people about, like, what we're selling?
That's the same. Well, what's so funny is, like, people in the comments all the time will be like, oh, I got this X item, I never would have even thought that would sell until I saw it on your video, and I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
I'm creating competition. But as we've said when we started the podcast, because when we started the podcast, we were like, are we crazy? We're going to make competition telling people how to run a successful eBay business, blah, blah, blah. You know what? There is room enough for everyone.
Yeah.
There is room enough for anyone that wants to sell a Eureka vacuum that they fixed the belt on.
Yep.
Just like I did. You bought it for $2. Someone thought it was broken. Great. Do it. There's enough people that want those things that we can both sell them.
Yeah, I think, to me, it's like if people are willing to do the work, then they should get the spoils of it. So that's good.
And the other part about it is I've learned so much from the people that we talk to, about art, about clothes, about coins, about jewelry, like stuff that I'm like, I never would have thought twice about that if I hadn't have had someone mention it on the comment or in an interview.
That's true.
So, it goes both ways.
Camaraderie.
Yes.
Customer issues. So when we, got back from Europe, we sold and shipped 150 items. Yeah. And so over the past, month or so, we've been getting some returns. We've probably gotten about maybe 6.
Yeah, a few.
Total out of that.
Feels like a lot, but...
Yeah,
it's not.
But the thing is, it feels like a lot because it all happens at one time.
Yeah, it's not spread out.
So, and that sounds about right. We get about 4 or 5 percent its return. So that would be about right. And,
okay, so here's 2 specific heartbreaking ones for me. These are heartbreaking. Yeah. Number 1, I sold a little pot top from Revereware.
For like $9.
This is my fault. I can't believe what an idiot I am about this. This is so stupid. So the person does not open a case. They just say, this is dirty and dented. I want to send it back. You wrote to them, send it back, full refund. Me, not recognizing that you were like full refund, which I wouldn't have said. I would have been like, just send it back. And I would have just paid for their item. Because it wasn't dented, and it was, in quotes, dirty, meaning it's a used item. I clean them. They're clean, but it's used. This person thinks they're getting a brand new item. It wasn't dented either. So I give them, through PayPal, I give them back the price of the item. Because I was being indignant. I was like, F this. I am whatever. I got a negative feedback. I called eBay. They won't remove it. I'm going to call like 2 more times this week. But, so I thought since they didn't open a return case, that I was in the clear. That they'd be like, oh, you refunded them like you said you would. Removed. Not the case, okay? So anyway, that sucked. Second heartbreaking customer issue. We sent this big pancake cooker. Thing weighed 45 pounds. Took me an hour to pack it. You guys saw it on the video. It's this big hulking thing, right? So we get a message from these people. I had tested it. It worked in my eyes. Whoever I sent it to either like sells these things for a living or refurbishes them for a living, but they were like, it needs a new thermostat. It's,
well,
blah,
he sent
blah, blah.
us, so because we're always like, well,
send photos.
So he sent photos, and you could tell he was in like a workshop, and there were all these appliances around him. So I think he was and so he had actually opened it, and he showed where the points were rusted.
Yeah.
I mean, but see, this is a good example of just like, okay, how far do you go down this hole? Yeah. And so our decision was full refund.
So his thing,
give a refund.
His thing was, I'll return it right away. And we're like, we don't want you to pack that thing. That thing is crazy to pack.
We don't want it back.
I don't want it back either. Bro, what am I going to do with it? So Jay was really good. Like, I was being a crazy person, and I was like, I don't want to. They also didn't open a case. And you're like, just refund them right now. Pull the Band-Aid off, which I hate it when you say that, but it's true.
Right.
Because it really feels like that, where you're like, and then I just did it, and then it was done.
Right.
And the customer was happy.
It's so painful, because I don't like to see our account go down
because it was $200.
Right, I mean, that's like a whole day of sales.
Yeah, exactly.
So I get it. But the thing is, once we did it, it's done. And
you just move on.
It's done.
The other thing, too, is with things like that, I'm like, I am never buying commercial cookware again.
Really?
Unless it's local pickup. Because really, the panini grill, okay, we bought it for $30, we sold it for $400. Yeah, you're crazy if you don't get that. But it took me hours to clean it. I had to get like some special plug to test it. And then it took me an hour to ship it, and I was so paranoid it was going to break. And I'm just like, no, I'm not doing it again, Unless it's local pickup.
Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes, like I just think sometimes things don't work out, and you just have to be, okay, yeah.
Yeah, you just have to learn.
Choices, like I don't want to do it again, like we used to sell those old typewriters all the time. And
I love old typewriters. They're beautiful, but
we just stopped because, they're hard to pack, and because they're old, people have different expectations of, like, is it going to work? Is it not? And so, you just make those choices.
Yeah. There's a couple things like that where we were just like, we're not going to buy these anymore. The end.
Yeah. I just do want to, it's mentioned, one good thing about it's this year we're talking about, like, maybe not making as much as we have in last year's.
Yeah.
Is because we have this second income from our rental property.
Yep.
And, like, I just got to say, like, this week has been great. eBay's been a little bit slow,
right?
But we've had our rental rented all week,
every day,
like fully booked,
and
it's great.
Yeah, and I think also, like, when we're like, we haven't done anything on eBay because we've been cranking on the farmhouse. Granted, you're like, well, once you clean and check people in, like, what are you doing, you know?
Yeah.
But we're doing laundry, all that stuff.
But it's cool. Like, right now, actually, a family checked in, and there's a trash shelf in there.
Yeah, real true. He makes a living on eBay, right?
This guy from Kentucky, he listens to the podcast. He contacted us. We booked him, and so him and his family are staying, and we're going to meet with them on Wednesday.
Yeah,
have his breakfast at our local diner, and
a little greasy spoon diner.
Talk about the business.
So we do talk more about the rental property on our other podcast, which we are going to do another episode of very soon. But for now, you can hear an interview with our friend Becca, who runs a very successful rental in New Orleans. You can see the pictures on shampooandbooze.com. It's such a cute place. So go check out shampooandbooze.com.
Okay, things we learned in the comments this week.
Yes.
So one thing was good. So last week we had talked about on the podcast, we said that we do not put any qualifying adjectives in our listing.
Meaning excellent condition.
Right. We don't say things like in great shape, great vintage condition, really beautiful. Or,
you're just like, just the facts.
Just the facts. So if we don't say anything, it just means that it's good to go. And the only thing that we say is if there's like a problem, like a stain. And in the comments, people were saying, I still like to say like, it's really cute and good, because for us, we've just learned that any kind of qualifying adjectives means that you're giving the buyer an opportunity to argue.
To say, no, it wasn't.
I don't think it's beautiful.
Right.
I don't think it's this. You know? And then this guy comes on, sorry, I forgot his name, but who I don't know if I'd ever seen in comment it's before, but he was like, no, it's new vintage in it's New York. I think it's Dan is his name.
Oh, yeah, it's Dan, yeah.
And he's got 5,000 items in his store.
Yeah, he's got a lot.
He sells mainly clothes, and he says that he doesn't put anything in his
Any
listing.
measurements.
Any color. He just takes a picture and just puts like anything on the
item specifics.
Like label.
Oh, really?
That's it.
So he doesn't do like color in the item specifics?
I mean, he said he didn't.
Well, to me, that's crazy because when you're looking for a particular color, you're going to put on the sidebar of eBay, click blue.
Well, I mean,
that's my argument.
I mean, what was interesting is that he really kind of made some people angry because, a lot of people take time to
a lot of people,
everything.
Including us.
That's what we do. But he does have a logic to it. He's like, I sell mainly new clothes.
Right.
So I just say, like, polo shirt.
Size large. And you wear a size large polo, go for it.
And he says, the people who are going to argue or going to say, what are the measurements? Those are the people I usually don't want to sell to.
Because they're going to return.
And that even if you put its measurements, the people that want to return it are going to return it anyway.
So he claims he gets the same amount of returns as anybody. He's not like, I get 50% returns. No, he's like, no, it's
said he
fine.
got whatever 2 to 5 it's percent.
Right, which is what we say too.
So if you're just selling stuff that's made in the past 10 years or so, it totally makes sense,
Yeah.
I mean, I think for us, a lot of the stuff we sell, like 75% of the stuff we sell is vintage.
Yeah, and so that's the hard thing. You're like, a vintage large is not a modern large.
Right.
A vintage extra large is like a medium.
Right.
You're like, how's this an extra large?
I do wonder, too, about, like, a women's clothes. Like, the different brands, the sizes correspond different. So, like, Anne Klein petite is not going to be the same as
like a polo petite. Yeah, that's what I find confusing because I actually mentioned on the comments, like, I wear a certain size in Old Navy jeans, but that size is different across like J. Crew or whatever, other brands. So it's like, I will not buy a pair of jeans on eBay if they don't have the measurements.
But maybe from his point of view, he's like, if someone's going to buy a J. Crew pair of jeans that's small, they probably just know that brand.
Right.
Like, that's what they buy, and so...
But I just said the opposite of that. I know exactly what size Old Navy jeans I wear, but there'll be times where people will have the measurements and it's like 2 inches off, and I'm like, well, I can't buy that because they're too long for me, even though it's the size I wear. So for me, I'm kind of like, well,
well, I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, the good thing too, he showed his store, and so, you know, if he's getting the numbers he wants, you know,
if that's working,
it's a very interesting point of view. So we got another comment on the blog about a guy, JD Midwest. He says that his store hasn't been making enough.
Yeah.
So he's kind of been putting his toe back into corporate consulting or something like that.
Yeah.
And he just said how he's finding it difficult because his boss is like, okay, great, he's back. Throwing him all this work. And he's like, it's very difficult to find that balance between, like, I want to run my store full time, but I want a little bit of extra cash. And we find that that's true. Like, once people see that you're back in action and can do this kind of job, they often start throwing work at you.
That's happened with us,
Like, you know, we actually booked another job. It's this year just because people saw that we were back.
It's hard to say no, you know.
So it's good. I mean, I think that for anyone doing eBay full-time, trying to quit at your job, but you still want to do a little bit of work, it's an interesting balance because it's hard. I mean, anytime we take a job, it takes us 2 weeks to prepare.
Right.
And we kind of get out of eBay, we do the job, and it takes us about 2 weeks to get back into it.
Yeah. Like, I'm really feeling it. We've been traveling for so long that, like, coming back home, it almost feels disorienting. Like, the last 2 times we cleaned the farmhouse, I'm kind of like, what am I doing? Like, I feel like I'm like forgetting how to do my job. You know?
I mean, those of you who are working full time on eBay and you've been immersed in it, that pattern that you have, that, you know, its rhythm that you have is so valuable. You know, I know it may feel boring at times, but it's really valuable that you have that kind of pattern. Because as soon as you break that pattern, I find it's hard to get back into it. Like, we've been back for a week now, and we still haven't really kind of gotten into a rhythm of waking up and taking pictures and listing.
It feels clunky.
We're like doing all these other things.
And, and it's like you were saying, muscle memory. Like I was mentioning to you when we cleaned the farmhouse, there's certain jobs that I'm doing that I'm like, I'm not even thinking, like, I don't even notice that I'm doing it. It happens because I've, like, got a pattern down. And, you know, you do this, you do this, you do this. Okay, that room's done. You know? And so it's kind of like that with eBay. You're like, I do this, I do this, I do this. Okay, my day's done. You know? Like, it just, when you break your day up or break your month up,
Because I always wonder about that, about the people who say, I used to sell on eBay full time, and then I stopped. And there isn't always a good reason why. Do people stop? You know, I guess maybe someone gets sick, but sometimes I just think that something comes up, they kind of get broken out of that cycle, and then they don't ever really get back into it.
They don't get back into it,
I think it's something that I really try and, you know, or that we try and hold on to it. You know?
Because it's easy to get out of it and just be like, especially now that we have, you know, the rental, it's probably... it has been easier to just like not do as much work on that end.
So our coming week, we're back till May. Is kind of our next trip. So I love it. It's wintertime, listing by the fire. That happens frequently. Where I don't leave the house, I just stay. One thing I have to remember, it's noticing it, is that the time change is coming. And already the days are getting shorter. And whereas before I could start taking pictures at like noon or 1 and be okay because I can take pictures until like 8 o'clock at night. Because I do daylight kind of pictures. Now it's going to start getting dark at like 3 o'clock.
Like in the wintertime, I forget, it gets dark at 3:30.
Right.
You know, if you sleep till 10, which we did today, you're not working till noon, and you're like, oh, it's dark.
Yeah.
Crap. That's not gonna work. So actually, what was funny is after we ate dinner just now, Jay was like, we need to put our alarms on tomorrow morning because we actually have to get up and do stuff before it gets dark.
Yeah. Okay, so let's answer the questions that people either have called with or have emailed us.
And if you want to call, you can call the number 540-407-8486. That number is posted on the blog all the time. And you have 3 minutes to leave a message. We do not pick up the phone. Although sometimes it does ring on my computer when I'm signed in. And I have to be tempted not to pick up.
Hi, Ryan and Jay. I absolutely love your blog. Listen to it all the time. Recommend it to everybody. I had a question about buying large size shoes. I was in Goodwill this morning. I saw some Vans and some Chacos and some Born sandals that were great, except they were in size 11 for women, and the Chacos were size 15 for men. So I decided to pass because I don't know how many large-sized people there are out there. What do you think about buying large sizes like that? My name is Carla in California. Thanks so much. Bye.
Okay, yes, you should always buy large shoes because those people who have larger size feet, like a 15 men's or an 11 women's, cannot always find those stuff out in the world. So they shop online.
Yeah, I mean, I can just read the comments right now that are going to come in. That everyone's like, yeah, I always buy any extra large men's stuff or a women's
3XL,
And I think the answer is a little different. Like, it's not so much that people can't buy these things, because now with the internet, those kind of clothes are everywhere. But if you can especially buy large sizes, if you can buy large sizes of interesting, especially a vintage clothes, then I think you're really appealing to people because, I think big sizes, you can probably buy online, like Walmart kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But like we found before, like shoes, like old vintage shoes that are like, I remember I found 2 pairs of the wingtips and they were 5E, Yeah,
extra, like the widest shoe like you can make. Yeah.
And those sold both very well.
Right, Or we found these like cool vintage leather boots that were like it was either size 14 or 15 men's. And they were new vintage boots, so they'd never been worn. I mean, that's like, because that's a rarity that they even made those sizes back then.
I think the interesting thing, though, it seems like it's the bigger sizes that sell. It's better. Anytime we find little tiny shoes like
those are hard.
Like a Cinderella-like shoe, those little tiny ones.
Well, and that's actually a brand, Cinderella of Boston, is they make petite shoes, like size 3, like adult shoes, size 3 and 5 to 5.
Wow, it's so little.
Yeah, it's tiny. But, like, the reason why they exist is because, like, if you want a size 3 adult women's shoe, like, that doesn't exist. It's like a kid's shoe. Mm-hmm. So, upscale women were like, well, we want, nice pumps. So, Cinderella of Boston.
So was that for a lady who's, like, 4 foot tall or something?
Yeah, I mean, wow. I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I wear an 8.5, so I'm just, like, average. But, so, that's that story.
Hi, so this is Mike Arnold. I live in Salem, Oregon. But just to tell you, I like your show. I think it's awesome. I'm actually trying to get my 17-year-old daughter to start getting into eBay because she doesn't really know what she likes to do. But the one thing I wanted to say was lay off the Amazon. I sell on Amazon, and I do actually am getting better and better. I like to find new products. I have some wholesale accounts that I'm starting to get into. But I love your podcast, but to hear you go off and just nag about Amazon, that's the only thing I have to say. But I love you guys. Love your show. It's awesome. Keep up the good work. It's fun to hear about what you guys are doing and your little goals and not little, but your goals and your plans, the house, all that. So have a wonderful day and all that good stuff. All right. Bye.
So there really isn't a question here, but I do want to acknowledge that he's totally right. Like, I have a habit of whenever I kind of like, I make fun of Amazon.
Don't diss Amazon.
I diss on, and you know what? I don't mean to do that. That's not the right way to do it. I guess what I'm trying to do is this. I see so many videos on YouTube, and it's mainly like people that sell on Amazon FBA. People really get very excited about it. They're killing it. They're crushing it. They're making empires, and it's cool. You know, they're making a lot of money, and they're excited, and I love that. I guess I'm just trying to speak up for those of us that are selling more the weirder stuff or selling on eBay, period.
Yeah.
And so I shouldn't do that by trying to put down people that sell on Amazon FBA. Just a different world. And, you know, I've interviewed a good number of people that sell on FBA, mainly because I'm always trying to educate myself and get interested in it and see if it would maybe work for what we do.
Yeah.
So it's all good. But point taken. Should not diss on the Amazon.
Don't diss on the Amazon.
Yeah. I mean, I should more just celebrate anybody out there who is taking back their own time by not having to work for someone else because they found a way to make a living scavenging. And scavenging could be retail arbitrage or buying wholesale or you know, or doing what we do, digging in the trash.
Yeah. The actual garbage. Yes. So let's take an email.
Yeah, we do take emails, and this is kind of like this is from kind of a long-time person that's been on the blog. Maybe I won't say her name. Just so she says, okay, I don't know if this is too basic of a question or too off-topic or too lame.
Lame, yeah.
But I just thought I'd throw it out there. So it's kind of a long, just kind of paraphrase.
Okay.
One problem she's had consistently is with her shop is that she has a problem setting goals. You know? So she has an eBay store. She would like it to make a consistent amount of cash. But she's like, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit, but I just don't really know how to develop or enact a plan to achieve a goal. You
know? Me either. That's why I have Jay. That's why Jay is very important to this relationship.
She says, but she actually has some goals.
Okay.
She says, I've had the completely ridiculous, modest goal of making $70 a day.
There you go.
Net. While still developing while still only doing it part-time, you know, like doing a part-time eBay, but making $70. So that is a goal. Okay. So she says, I know it's achievable, but I've been able to reach it because I haven't developed a plan how to get there, you know?
Right.
And then she apologizes again, like, I should know this, you know? Anyway. And she says she knows that we say things like, buy more and list more, you know?
Right.
Like, please list all the time. And she says that's too vague, you know? Like how do you develop actual, like, what about if I list only items that are worth $75? Or what if I list $350 worth of stuff every week, you know?
Right. Well, to me, yes, okay, I understand that that's vague. Like, you should be listing. But we give ourselves number goals.
Yeah.
We say, let's make sure when we're listing, it's not 5 items, it's 20 items.
Yeah.
You know, we give ourselves number goals. Or, you know, today, let's take photos of 20 jackets.
Right.
You know, it's not just like, just do it all the time. You know, it's...
Sometimes I think it's maybe hard for us to remember because, you know, we started in 2008. We're at a zero.
Yes.
Just like everyone else does.
Yep.
You start at zero.
Yeah.
And for about 2 years, we were really hardcore. I mean, we were doing 20 items a day.
Every day.
Pretty nonstop.
Yeah.
And that's how we were able to build up such a big store. And now with almost 4,000 items, that's when we can kind of chill out and hang back. But that's what we always say, though. I mean, if you want a goal, I mean, I don't know how to do it part-time because we've never really done this part-time.
And by ourselves, like, we have each other, so you photograph and I list. So.
Yeah, but, you know, 20 items a day is a really good goal.
It's a good goal.
So maybe if you only did it part-time, if you did it, like, 2 days a week, but just do 20 items.
Do 20 items those 2 days.
And like we always do like items. So I'll have a pile of men's jackets or men's shoes, or here's a pile of like glassware.
Right.
So you can take pictures of stuff pretty easily and measure them easily, and then when you list them, you can just
it's all the same
use
category. Yeah,
the exact same template.
Right. And it's all in the same category, so you're not like, what category is it? No, it's all in the same thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I think, to make $70 a day, so let's think about it. That's about $500 a week. So that's about $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
I mean, that's totally doable.
Yep, totally.
I mean, if you look at the numbers that people post on our blog, I mean, I see people with like 300 items in their store, and they're making like $800 a week. I mean,
oh man, and I'm like, dude, what are you guys selling? I want to sell that. Like, I mean, Jesus.
The thing is, it's hard to know. Okay, so maybe they made $800 this week, but did they make $200?
Right, exactly.
A week ago,
Yeah.
I always think with smaller stores, the issue is just consistency.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't know. I wish I could help you more, but we aren't really. I think there are people better out there that are more like motivational, inspirational, kind of like step-by-step kind of people. It's hard for us to give people step-by-step because all of our lives are different. We talk about that scavenger equation.
Right.
Like if you have kids, we don't have kids, so our equation is much different from you because we don't have to like wake up early with the kids or take people to school.
Yeah, it's like
kids.
We're the most selfish people ever because I barely feed the cats. I'm like, oh, I'm glad Jay feeds the cats because I would not think to even do that.
I mean, I think that people that have full-time stores or have an eBay business with like multiple children, I mean, you guys should be the ones to have a podcast.
Yeah, why don't you guys have a podcast? I'm just sitting around like
you're the ones that
petting
are incredible.
a cat.
Hi guys, this is Chris from flippingadollar.com. I had a question. I was wondering if you guys would ever accept a trade in lieu of payment. I recently had a buyer who came down with an offer for a jacket and said he felt it was fair, but he was having some trouble going through a divorce right now, so he was wondering if I would take a trade. He ended up paying for the shipping for the jacket. He also gave me some coins that were uncirculated, so I kind of knew the value. All in all, I'll end up making an extra like $10, $15 on the transaction, so I feel kind of good about it, even though it's probably against eBay policy to do this. But I think it kind of goes back to the old days of eBay. So have you, or would you ever accept a trade? Thanks. Bye.
I have never done that.
I think for us, we've had every once in a while we'll have someone say, "I want this jacket. Can I give you X?" And the thing they want to give us is not interesting.
It's not interesting to us.
I think that sounds like more of like a Craigslist kind of
like
thing.
A barter. Yeah.
But I think it's cool.
No, I think it's cool. I don't. Actually, Chris, I would love to know how you guys negotiated that. Like,
did he send
let's
you
both ship on the same day and make sure the tracking is there? Because it's like, what if he pays for the shipping and you ship it, so how do you know you're actually going to get the coins? Because there's no transaction to show that. That's my question, is the question of trust.
I totally think it's cool, although I do joke sometimes about, I wish I could do that like a Walmart, where I could give them like 2 pairs of shoes.
Old Red Wings. Oh, will you guys take these?
That are going to sell for like $120 and then give us like a grocery, a basket of groceries.
Hey, there might be some grocery stores that do that somewhere in the country.
Yeah, but I see it's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I think like as Ryan said, it's without the convenience of PayPal. How do you time who gets what?
Yeah, so actually, since you guys did it, I would love to know how you did it. That does sound like a Craigslist thing where you meet in person. Here is my silver booty, and I'll take the jacket, and you like switch right at the same time. Like a movie. Hand over a briefcase.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's like that show Homeland,
Yep, that's right. True.
Okay.
All right, so that's it for It's This Week. You can check out our blog at scavengerlife.com, and that's where any links we've talked about will be there, and you can also join the conversation as well. You can call or leave us a comment on something that you heard.
Yes, and the phone number is 540-407-8486.
We post an episode every Sunday night, Monday morning. We do a What Sells video on Wednesday.
Yes.
And we have an interview in the pipeline. Maybe we'll get to it, but we're trying to catch up with our own business.
Yes, it is there. It does exist.
And every so often we did get someone complaining. They were like, I look at your videos on YouTube, but I don't see anything. I just hear your voices.
And we have to explain what a podcast is.
Yeah.
That's happened several times,
I think it is weird for people. They're just like,
really
why
funny.
why can't I see you?
They're like, the video doesn't work.
Because you know what? Right now we're in a dark room. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. Like, why would you want to see us? You can subscribe to us through iTunes or on YouTube. There are different audiences here.
Yes.
And, you can also rent our vacation house. I gotta say that. So it's slowing down for us at our vacation.
So now's the perfect time for you to rent.
We would love to rent to Trash Shelves. If you want, like, a coldish winter vacation, come. We will cut you a deal. It'll be cool.
Yeah, we would love to cut you a deal.
Yeah.
For real.
You can just go to our blog and we'll have a link there. Anyway, this podcast, I will say gladly, is ending in 3, 2, 1.
0. Goodbye.